Hello, I'm Pastor Joe, and I want to welcome you to Impacts. Impacts is a video teaching series where I try to help nurture your faith in, your commitment to, and your relationship with Jesus Christ. You know, I'm sitting out back of the church here, and things are a whole lot quieter today than they were yesterday. Yesterday was Easter, and at our sunrise service, we had a full house as we stood out here and we sang our praise to God and celebrated the resurrection. At 11 o'clock worship celebration, we had a tremendous crowd there, a beautiful job by the choir. Kids were everywhere. It was just fantastic. There was just a lot going on. But today, it's a lot different. Today, we're starting to turn our attention to next Sunday and making plans there. But it strikes me that before we move on from Easter, we really need to think a little bit about what Easter means for us. So that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today. So come on. Let's get started. You know, life can be really hard sometimes. There's a lot of brokenness, a lot of heartache, a lot of things that go on. There's wars that seem to be going on all over the world. There's terrorism, strikes that happen. We see pictures of families displaced from their homes. There are disasters that hit. People get sick. There's diagnoses with cancer and other diseases. And death is a reality of life. It can be really hard. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes it feels like there's no way out. That, you know, when are things going to end? Or how are we going to get through? Will we make it through? I'm reminded of a story of a young boy who loved to read, and he loved to read Western stories, and he had a favorite character, so he would read all the books that came out about this character. And he was reading this one book in particular, and man, it looked really bad for the hero of the book. He was surrounded by all of his enemies. He was running out of ammunition, and it just looked like maybe this was the episode, the book that he was not going to make it out of. And it just got so much for this little boy. He just couldn't stand it. He couldn't read anymore. He was too anxious. So he turned to the last page, and he read the last page. And then he turned back to where he was. And as he's reading all this intense action coming against his hero, he's going, "Come on, you can do it. I know you can. It's gonna be okay." You see, when we know how the story ends, we can deal with everything else. Well, on Easter, we know how the story ends. We learn how the story ends. You see, Easter reminds us that we are a people of hope. Death doesn't have the final say. Poverty doesn't have the final say. Violence and drugs and all of this doesn't have the final say. God has the final say. We still go through these things. We still grieve, but we don't grieve like the world grieves. We still go through difficult times, but when we do, we remember that there is hope. We are an Easter people as Christians. That's what that means. And so we never lose hope. And we've got to keep our eye on the resurrection and on Easter. We may celebrate Easter for a day in worship, but as God's people, we need to live a life of resurrection. We need to live an Easter life. So here's my challenge to you. I want you to think on what does it mean to lead an Easter life? What does it mean to live with a hope that isn't found inside of ourselves, in our possessions, in our things, how happy we are or how well things are going? What does it mean to live with a hope that is found in Jesus Christ? God blesses us with many things, but the greatest blessing that we have, and the one blessing we need to keep our eye on, is His Son, Jesus Christ. His death on the cross, His resurrection from the grave, the promise of forgiveness, and the promise of new life. When we keep our eyes on that, and that's what we remember, that's part of living that Easter life, that resurrection life. Well, look, I thank you for being with me today. I want to encourage you to join me next week for the next Impact video. I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that. When you do, you can click on the little bell indicator, alarm indicator, and anytime I post a new video, you'll get notified about that. I also want to encourage you to Share this video with others to help nurture their faith. I look forward to seeing you next week.